cast. Jonathan Greenblatt, without further ado, your reaction to the president's speech today.
Well, first of all, I think so many of us are still coping with the unspeakable. I listened to Raf's piece coming in and the stories about children, babies burned in their cribs and children beheaded. We're talking about the unspeakable, and yet even in this moment, I'm encouraged that President Biden is finding the words to comfort a nation. And this wasn't just an attack on the Israeli people, although it was, or the Jewish community, although it was. It was an attack on all of us. This kind of barbarity, this kind of inhumanity is a threat to civilization as we know it. And so I am glad to hear the president speak with such clarity, without any equivocation about the sheer evil of Hamas, about the danger of anti-Semitism and his willingness to support the community. Compare that, Nicole, to what we've seen from university presidents in the last couple of days who have been unable to find the simple courage to say in no uncertain terms, anti-Semitism, anti-Zionism, this kind of hate is wrong. And look, we have over 1,100 bodies of civilians who were butchered and tortured and maimed. So I'm glad the president spoke the way that he did. I think that will not only encourage the Israeli people and the Jewish community, but the rest of the country that wants to know that America not only has Israel's back, but that America retains its moral core, because we're looking for leadership right now.
Jonathan, one of the things he said that I wrote down and underlined 4 times, he talked about, because I think this is a moment that calls on all of us, right, to be part of the solution. He talked about taking all of his kids and grandkids to Dachau when they're 14. And I know a lot of people who go to the... Oh, we have the sound. Let me play that one more time.
Please.
There is no place for hate in America. Not against Jews, not against Muslims, not against anybody. And we mourn the act you and so many leaders have across the country, showing us what thousands of years of Jewish history has shown us. The enduring strength, and I mean this sincerely, the enduring strength and spirit of the Jewish community. If you excuse a point of personal privilege, you should say in the Senate. That's why I took my kids, everyone when they turned 14 years old, one at a time, put them on a plane and took them to Dachau. I wanted them to see that you could not know what was going on walking through those gates. You could not fail to understand as a country what was going on. And that's a fact. It had a profound impact on my children and my grandchildren. Some thought taking a 14-year-old grandchild was not a mistake, but I took them one at a time. I got 3 more to go. And folks, it's important.
I feel like he's getting at something that we talk about, right? To make sure that it never happens again, you have to know your history. I mean, I talk to people that have taken their kids to the lynching museum for the same reason. I mean, our only bulwark against brutality, against savagery, against the dehumanization of any human is to know the history of the savagery and the brutality against other humans. And I thought that was a really important part of what he had to say today.
Yeah, look, this isn't about politics. This is about principles. This is about basic values. He's at his best when he's not reading notes and doing something stilted, but that was President Biden from the heart. And you're right, like the only way we can fight evil is if we recognize it and we respond to it with clarity, again, and focus. So I've had such a hard time over the last few days because, as Dr. King said, we will remember not the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends. But boy, is Joe Biden, and there are other members of Congress. There are groups like the National Action Network. We've seen just a few CEOs say clearly and strongly, "Where are your friends?" And I will just say the analogy to the concentration camps and to the Third Reich. What Hamas was doing was literally planning a kind of Fourth Reich right here. There was nothing about Palestinian liberation going on when they were raping women. There was nothing about a 2-state solution when they were implementing their final solution, ravaging, teenagers at a concert and just massacring them like that. So I'm laying this out, though, because if we don't call out Hamas, as we did Al-Qaeda and ISIS, for their savagery, for the anti-Semitism and the hatred at the core of their whole raison d'etre, we're just missing the point. And we've learned from the lessons of history that we need to take our enemies at their word. And so I hope that with America's support, Israel will do what it needs to, as much as it can, minimize casualties, protect the sanctity of all life, but eradicate this evil from our midst before it does any more harm.